The last few months haven't looked good. Since Donald Trump became president, a meme coin has been launched. We're seeing more and more extreme situations. Flash crashes. The market is crashing harder and harder. It's completely driven by market makers. They control everything here. It's now become normal to see nearly 1.5 billion being flushed out of the markets within 24 hours. It is a pure market maker game, and we even see on-chain that some exchanges like Binance, in combination with Wintermute, are selling extremely large amounts of Solana to dump the prices, of course, to make money, but also to gain even more influence over the market, to steer the prices, just like they always do. The market makers steer the game, taking certain zones for themselves. Since Donald Trump, we can see that this game is completely ruled and controlled by the big players. They're completely going wild here now. And to be honest, it doesn't have to be our fate. We can hardly do anything about it. But we can play along in this game and we can be smarter than the rest. Take a look. This exchange liquidation map for Bitcoin. We have $16 billion versus $1.7 billion. Things are currently so out of balance that I could imagine that we might see a short squeeze here, again. And then we'll rapidly rise again because more and more people are going short. I mean, the ratio here is crazy, how one-sided it is. In such conditions, it's clear that the market makers will step in again and possibly pump the price, which would liquidate all the shorts. It's become really obvious how the market makers are controlling the whole game here. They're currently in control. And with Bitcoin, we're currently in an accumulation phase again, in a situation where you can slowly start buying in. Because to be honest, the bull run is still completely intact. We simply have longer and longer periods of stagnation. They are now part of life. The cycle is stretching out a bit. But this isn't the time for me to turn bearish, because, to be honest, take a look at the data. They're waiting for you right here. But before we continue, friends, you know what to do. Give the video a like and leave a comment. Especially in these tough times, you get even less support. That's why I'm completely dependent on it, so feel free to support me with a like or a comment. Thank you, friends. Because while all the people here have been frightened again, whales have become aggressive again. Bought Bitcoin. Do you really think they're doing this because they expect us to enter a bear market? I doubt it. We're seeing in the USA that the unemployment rate has risen rapidly. In a very short time, the unemployment rate has risen dramatically. That, in turn, is reflected in the interest rate cut, because now more and more people are expecting that we might actually see an interest rate cut, and that the interest rate cut is becoming more likely. And that's exactly why this is actually a positive thing, because another interest rate cut this year would be necessary for the crypto market. That would bring us a massive amount of liquidity into the markets. So in the end, that's very good, that we're now seeing more unemployment numbers in the USA. They're probably rising now because Donald Trump isn't falsifying the numbers here. And probably also because Elon Musk and Donald Trump have thrown some officials out. But as I said, further interest rate cuts or higher interest rate hikes are extremely crucial for the future of the crypto market and the stock market. That makes me feel very, very positive. What also makes me feel extremely positive at the same time is looking at this global liquidity. Here we have Bitcoin. Down here, this is Bitcoin. We follow global liquidity every time. When we saw an increase here, we saw this increase in Bitcoin 2 months later. And you can really see how meaningful that is. Now we're seeing a big increase in global liquidity again. And with Bitcoin, we're continuing to drop. Why? Because it's all delayed. First, we see the increase in global liquidity. And about 2 months later, we see the increase here. Here we've seen, since the beginning of January, we've had a big rise again for about more than 2 months. And then it would actually fit in terms of timing that we would see the next breakout for Bitcoin here as well. Because global liquidity is extremely important for the crypto market, but especially for Bitcoin. Because here we have this chart again. Take a look at it. How important global liquidity is in relation to an altcoin season. Here, we had the drop in Bitcoin dominance, while down here, we saw a massive expansion of money. It's completely correlated. When we had the drop in Bitcoin dominance in 2021, we were experiencing a massive expansion of money the whole time, which is extremely important for risk assets. At the moment, we have risen very strongly, but at the moment, we also see global liquidity is increasing. That would fit if we also see a drop in Bitcoin dominance. The more money we have for Bitcoin, and what makes me feel extremely positive about Bitcoin right now, with Bitcoin, we have now seen a golden cross for the first time since 2021. And the last time that happened, we had this monster altcoin season. The last time that happened was really during the altcoin season of 2021. Take a look at this. Here we had the golden cross. And take a look at what Bitcoin did. Right now, we are exactly at the point where we see global liquidity continues to rise. I just showed you how positive and important this is for the altcoins. And on the other hand, we see that further interest rate cuts are becoming increasingly likely. Now is not the time to be bearish. Now is not the time to be afraid. What's happening here is a market maker game, and probably, from the looks of it, this is, in my opinion, the last shakeout before things can continue to rise in the months to come. Maybe it won't be in March, April, or May, but at the latest by the end of the year, because this cycle is not over. Even though we keep seeing more charts like this one saying, yo, the cycle is over, guys, there are too many things that speak against it. Just how positive the macro data is becoming is fascinating. Above all, it is now so obvious that the market is manipulated because we simply didn't see any bad news, and yet we experienced such a huge crash. The market controls the game, you know exactly which zone you are picking up here, but right now, due to leverage, it's becoming increasingly likely that we'll see nice rising prices again. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of 2021, when in January it was also said that we wouldn't see any altcoin rises. But as we saw earlier, global liquidity is expanding, where everything was actually going in the right direction. I mean, just look at how global liquidity has risen over the months and how it has followed up in a delayed manner. The bullhorn came. Right now, to be honest, it's starting to look to me like we're getting global liquidity into the markets in a delayed manner, right? And then the altcoins would have another chance to reach new all-time highs. Plus, of course, the whole thing with the rate cuts. As that becomes more likely, it will also have a really positive impact. In such market phases, I focus on sensible, good altcoins, like SUI, where you can clearly see that on-chain. Things are moving forward. For example, we've surpassed the BNB chain to us in daily transactions. What's crazy is when you compare their market caps. These are things I pay attention to. You should also pay attention to this, value quality. In this regard, I'm also looking closely at Betenso. Here we've also reached some very good price targets, where you really have to say, long-term technically and with extremely good prices, Betenso is just the best project. By now, we not only have 64 subnets, but more and more are coming, because we now have the Tau and Extreme Cash. Interesting update. With the Tau EVM, we will be completely compatible with Ethereum. So those are the two most important updates in years for Betensor, and technically it looks good to me. I still believe that we should definitely reach over $2,000 in this cycle. With Betensor, those are currently also good price targets. I'm looking closely at Betensor, but I'm also paying close attention to Hyperliquid, because Hyperliquid is basically just a trading exchange, but decentralized. But here you can also trade with leverage, and so on. And it really doesn't sound that crazy. It's wild because when you look at it, it almost looks like any other exchange. It doesn't look that crazy here. It actually looks normal. But the thing is, since everything is completely decentralized here, we already have an extremely high number of users. And by extremely many users, I simply mean that Hyperliquid generates 5 times more revenue per day than Solana, and 3.5 times more revenue than Ethereum. You have to imagine this. How crazy is that? Basically, a decentralized exchange generates more revenue in such a short time than Solana and Ethereum combined. I'm asking you, friends, these are really extremely positive numbers, and these numbers definitely give a positive outlook for the coming months. Here, I'm also accumulating at $20, but I'm also looking to see if I can catch some slightly cheaper prices. Because technically, in the long term, we're really on a good path here, especially when you consider the revenue mechanism and so on. It's just something a bit different again. And I think it's cool that here, with this buy and burn mechanism, you're fighting against inflation, and that it also rewards the users a bit. Overall, it's just a successful platform that is already valued at 6 billion, but in relation to the revenue, it's still massively undervalued. And that's why I'm looking into it. And I hope you enjoyed the video so far. Thank you for watching, and see you next time, friends. Bye.